excited about this series we're starting here, where you've had such a great system that you've used to teach so many people how to read music, and I've been kind of pestering you to see if we can talk about it on this podcast. So I am thrilled to start this series today on how to read music. We're planning at least 3, but perhaps more later on. We'll see how it goes.
Yes. We'll see how folks learn this. Mm-hmm. To me, it's so simple. I always say you need to proceed from what you do know to what you don't know. There are things you do know and you don't realize you already know them. I was just talking yesterday to a girl who wants to learn how to sing. And I said, can you read music? No, I can't read music. Oh. I said, all right, let's start where you know. I said, stand up. I said, can you sing that? She said, I can sing that. Stand up. Stand up. And I said, well, see, you already knew that. Now, let me tell you what that is. That's a fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4. You can sing that. Oh, she said, I already knew that. Yes.
Yeah.
I said, okay, now let's go a little further. I said, there is a fountain filled. Okay. I said, that's 1, 3, 5. And you said, you can sing that. Well, she said that. And I said, those are thirds. And it goes up to that. Oh, she said, well, I already knew that. I didn't know what I knew that.
Exactly.
And that's what I think we're talking about here.
Good.
And Tim, I want you to tell, because I've done this too. Years ago, you go talking about going back, 1954. How many years ago is that?
Oh, a long time.
46 and 21 is what, 67?
Probably.
67 years ago.
Wow.
I taught this from kindergarten through 6th grade. That's where I started. Then I taught it to the high school where I was working at that time, over in Pensacola, where they made me in the Princeton High School. And then I ended up teaching it to graduate students, college students and graduate students. And you've done that too. I think the people who are listening to us, Tim, need to know your background too.
Sure.
My background, if you go back to our first podcast, we talked about my background, for what I've done over the years. But I'd like for the people to hear where you were, Kansas City, am I right?
Yes, Kansas City,
Tell about
Missouri.
it, okay?
I was there for almost a decade, I believe 9 years.
Wow.
Served in a church up there in the North Kansas City, Gladstone area. And there was a Christian school connected with that, and taught 1st through 12th grade. After lunch, I'd have some days a 1st through 3rd grade choir, 4th through 6th grade choir, and then a junior high, and then a high school choir. So I just ran the gamut through there. Also had a music appreciation class where I taught some of these basic principles to the elementary students, and then even in the choirs, and I started a handbell program there.
Wow.
Taught them how to read music as
And
well.
you still use handbells, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
You've got a beautiful handbell choir that I heard several times over there at Pensacola Christian College. But keep on going. Go ahead.
Sure. And after about a decade there in Kansas City, the Lord called us out here to Pensacola. I think I'm partway through my 18th or 19th year. I've kind of lost track. We started in 2003, so I think that's about 18 and a half years now. And I've been teaching others to go and teach how to read music and how to conduct, and many different aspects of theory and church music philosophy and stuff like that. So I've had the privilege of training the next generation, much as I learned from you in the master's program here back in the late 90s, and learned and heard a lot of this, and learned a lot of this from you, and trying to pass it on myself to next generation as they go and serve the Lord through music.
Well, let me just say, I believe we have something special that God has given us together. I talked to my son-in-law, who I'm living with here, and with my youngest daughter, and he's an inspector. And it's just amazing. He knows, as an inspector, for instance, he works with realtors. Now, most of them he's never met. He just talks to them on the phone. He said, I never met them. But he knows how a realtor thinks. He's also built big houses, so he knows how to construct a house on a mountain. There were houses that he built outside of Greenville, South Carolina, where the lot cost over $1 million. And he built a house on that mountain and knew how to build a house up there. So he knows that. But then he understands the electrical part. He knows what the insurance companies are going to do. And that a scope of his background is being used cover everything, so he can talk to anybody and explain to them what you got to do. And this is what you and I have done with music.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, "Are you a conductor?" Yeah. Well, are you a composer? Yeah. Are you a trombonist? Yeah. Are you a singer? Yeah. Are you a preacher? Yeah. Are you a teacher? Yeah. I've had all that experience. And so our experience we're trying to share with those who are listening to our podcast.
Yes.
And so we believe that you already know some things that you didn't realize you knew.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with scales and intervals.
Good.
How about going over to the piano? Let's see. I can do it. Okay, C. I think I know where C is, or I'm close anyway. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Now, I like when I'm teaching it, I like to number it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? People say, I say, you can do that, can't you? And I try to find a C. And I say, now, I'm just making it a C for now. But always, if you have a piano in your house or wherever you live, and a lot of people don't have pianos now, but you can do it. If anytime you're near, go to your church and say, I'm going to see if I can find a C. And play the note and see how close you are.
Yeah.
You may not be right on it.
Yeah.
I don't even know for now for sure. I used to be able to be right on it exact, but I may not be. But then what you do, you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 3. You say, well, I didn't know a third. Yes. My Jesus. Oh, you already knew that. They say, now let me show you what it looks like. If you get one space and then another space, that's a third. You get one line, another line, that's a third. Now, then what you're doing, you're learning the intervals. So when you see that interval, you know how to sing it. You say, well, I can't do a fourth. Yes, you can. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stand up. There it is. You got the fourth. And just look at that. You skip a line from one line to the next, and in the next space, that is a fourth. Learn what that looks like. And in our third session, that's what we're going to talk about, is how you do that, just to actually apply it.
Good.
Because you take songs you know, and then see where what we're saying right now applies. And I would always say to people, you can get a sixth, or say, I'll never sing that. I say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now go 1, 6. Oh, yeah, I can do that. He lives. Or Jesus from the realms. There it is again. Everywhere you turn, the sixth is there.
Yeah.
Learn to see what that looks like. Put it in your mind, and then use it as an interval. And that's what you're learning. You're learning the scales, and you're learning an interval, and how it sounds, and work out the intervals, and look for chords. Look for chords. There are certain things that follow a chordal pattern, and you sing them all the time and don't realize it. For instance, there is a fountain. Okay, those first three notes are a C chord. C, E, G, if you're in the key of C. 1, 3, 5. So you already know that song. So every time you see a pattern like that, that ought to trigger something in your mind. Say, that's something I already knew. Now I can apply it to this song. Or if you think of another song that does that same thing.
With the major chord?
A major chord, yes.
Oh, of course.
There are some, I know.
Yes. And now I try to think of it if my mind goes blank.
That's what me. But if you look in the book for them, they come right. Okay, well, let's take Amazing Grace. Everybody loves Amazing Grace.
Yep.
It's usually written in the key of G. We'll talk about this with scales, but it's so interesting because we're going to want to show you a piano keyboard. Take all the white notes on a piano, and you go from C to D. There's a black note in between those. From D to E, there's a black note in between. From E to F, there is no black note in between. So that's a half step. The other ones are whole steps. So from F to G is a whole step, no black note. And G to A is, A to B is. The B to C is a half step because there's no black note in between. So between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, you always have half a step. So when we talk about like the key of G, If you start on G and go from G to A, that's a whole step, you're okay. A to B, there's a black note in there. B to C is a half step, that's where you want it, from 3 to 4. Then go from C to D, then there's that black note in between there. D to E, another black note. E to F, there's a half step, you don't want it there. So you make the F sharp, make it a black note, and the half step then comes between the F sharp and the G. So that's why the key of G has one sharp.
Yep.
A lot of folks have never thought about that.
Yep.
See, what we're saying, there is a system to it.
Yes.
You can start anywhere. Let's go from the D, just say. Go ahead and do it for me.
Sure. Well, in the system is based on a series of whole steps and half steps.
Right.
And it's actually broken into 2 parts. We have 2 whole steps and a half step.
Yep.
And then those are connected by a whole step. And then we get another set of 2 whole steps and half steps. And we call those tetrachords, or I've heard them called as tetrachords.
Yeah.
And I like to call it a major tetrachord. I haven't seen anybody else call it that, but it makes the major scale.
That's fine.
Yep. And so if we start on D, we need that whole step. Looking at the keyboard there on the screen, you'll see from D to E has that black note between, so there's the whole step. But now we need to skip a note, and that E to F, that's that half step, so we need to have a note between, so we're going to go to F sharp.
Yeah.
Notice also that every time we go up on the scale, we change letter names. So sometimes I'm asked in a theory class, do I call that an F sharp or a G flat? Because those black notes have 2 different names. They inharmonic is the fancy term for that.
Right.
But we need to call it an F sharp because we just went from E and now we need some kind of F. And now we have that half step because we had our whole step, next we need a half step going up to G. And now we get that connecting whole step, G to A. And then we start building our second chord, tetrachord that is, of a whole step, A to B. Another whole step. Now, like we did at F, we need to skip that white note and go up to C sharp.
Yes, make that
and
C sharp.
And then we have that last half step, and we're back to our tonic, our home note of D.
And we call that 2 sharps.
Scale. Yep. So
and so
two
it's
sharps
F sharp and C sharp.
Excellent.
Yep. Or do you know that? And that's what you can do with the edge start on any note. When it's a major scale, and that's all we're going to talk about now. Minors, we can learn that later on. In fact, you really don't even know when you see a third whether it's a minor or a major third. If you're in the key, your mind will tell you whether it's a major or minor. You can sing it. It's amazing how your mind sorts that out for you. God gave us some things to think with.
Yes, he
and
sure
that's
did.
why. So let's go back to Amazing Grace. Usually in the key of G, which is 1 sharp. I'll go amaze. There's that fourth. And that's a G chord, see? Those 2 notes are G, B, D. And so the G to the, from the 5th to the root. And then amazing now goes up the 3rd. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound, right back to there. That saved a wretch like me. Now it's up to the 5th. It's back to the G again. So you've had all your intervals, and you can look at that song and say, now I know a 4th, I know a 3rd, and that's all built on the chord, the G chord, which is the tonic chord of the key of G. Then I once was lost. There, you're right back to it. There's your 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 1. Then back to 5. Da, 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 da. You have one other note in there, but that's why it's a pentatonic scale. Explain what a pentatonic scale is.
Well, penta is 5, and tonic in this case is sound, and so that as you look at the melody of Amazing Grace, there's only 5 different notes that are used.
Right.
And interestingly, if you start on the right note, you can play it with just the black keys on the keyboard because there's 5 different notes there. But this time we're in the key of G. So actually, wouldn't the starting note be D for the 5?
Yes.
D, G. Yep. Okay. Excellent. Very good.
Okay. So you can go back and start if you want to. Put it on all the black notes, and it'll work.
Yeah.
Play it all on the black notes.
Yep, because it only has those 5 notes. And it's a the pentatonic, I think of folk songs, both here in America, but also I've discovered it's quite popular in Japan. I've had different students from Japan that have the privilege of teaching.
We sing a lot. Let's see. How firm a foundation. It's there again.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible. There it is again. You got your 5 note scales.
Yep.
And you already knew that and didn't know you knew it. So now you've got that relationship that tells you all those notes are in those chords. In fact, that whole piece is just 2 chords. Da 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 da. There it is. You got the whole song, and you got 2 chords. And so you say, well, why this is complicated? No, it's not complicated. No. It's simple. And so what we have really shown you by giving you a scale, the intervals, and is there anything else we need to talk about right here? The chords that they build. We think, and if you look, for instance, take Amazing Grace again. If you get your book out and look at it, and which we're suggesting that you do, we're going to suggest that several times.
Good.
Look at the bass. The bass goes through the same notes in different proportion. It's all built on those G and other chord. The bass is become pentatonic too.
Yep.
And that makes it a song that everybody can sing.
Yeah, very accessible.
And a lot of Christmas carols are like that. It's amazing how many, they just seem to repeat the same notes over again. The first Noel, it keeps going over the same, because God gave that as what we call a mnemonic. We've talked about that word before. Do you remember how to spell it?
No,
it's
I'm
crazy
terrible at spelling.
It starts with an M, because like the word canoe, you don't say canoe, you say no, K-N-O-W, and the M is silent. Mnemonic, M-N-E-M-O-N-I-C. It's a mnemonic thing that sticks in your mind. It makes you remember it. Once you learn Amazing Grace, you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
You learn how from a foundation. All creatures of our God and King. Those songs are written for us to remember things that we can't remember in any other way. God gave it to us. I think that's why John chapter 1, talking about Christ, without him was not anything made that was made.
Yes.
I think he's talking about heaven. And heavenly music is going to be similar to what he gave us here. Now here, it's out of tune. Everything, because of the curse. Adam and Eve sinned, and we all are born sinners. The curse is there. So it's out of tune. If you make it in tune, it'll go off the keyboard. So you don't, and we can explain that sometime if we want to, but that's a technical thing.
Yeah.
That when a piano tuner tunes a piano, he deliberately tunes it just a little bit out of tune.
Yeah.
So he makes the fifth just a little bit smaller, and then it will work on all the keys.
Yeah.
So we've given you something to start with. This is the system.
Good.
Now we're going to go from there. If you get confused now, wait till we do the next 2 sessions. And I think we'll show you that everything has a system, and you can learn it because it's all simple.